pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of council, please. Councilmember Garberson? Here. Councilmember Holden?
Present.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Councilmember McMahon? Councilmember Putnam?
Here.
Councilmember Steiger?
Here.
Councilmember Walker? So are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? Councilmember Holden?
Since we have a holiday, City Hall will be closed in the past, City Council has passed a resolution to put an informative type resolution that will come up, something to what we're looking for.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Do you want to add it to the agenda to discuss, or?
Yeah, actually, it wouldn't be a resolution, just a motion.
Okay. So I'll put item under new business. We'll make it item G. Okay. Not a problem. I would like to have an executive session this evening. One of them to discuss any discussion regarding the possible appointment for the finance director, and also I need to inform council of possible litigation. So probably about 15 minutes. Any other changes or additions to tonight's agenda? All those in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did we have any public comment? I don't have any forms in front of me. Was there anyone that had any public comment this evening? For things not on the agenda? Is that a signal yes?
It may be. Let me get my piece of paper out. Wide angle. If I have to talk, I might as well be on camera.
Three things.
Gene Fancher, 37248 55th Avenue South, Auburn, Washington 98001, within the city of Pacific. First, we had Make a Difference Day this weekend on Saturday, and I will be making comments about that during the park board position of the agenda if Ms. Hall is not here. Two, I just was over at the senior center and was able to sign up for Affordable Care Insurance, ACA, and Willie, the fellow from the King County Public Health Department wanted me to remind people that they will be at the Algona Pacific Food Bank, which is at New Hope Lutheran Church, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow on Tuesday. I think there's another day scheduled or two later in the month. And three is kind of my citizen observation, I've been having a conversation back and forth with the folks in the police department about certain large trucks driving in my neighborhood on King County streets, which then end up in Pacific. And, you know, I kind of have this thing about scofflaws. So it was pretty amusing driving down here this afternoon earlier to follow a Pacific police car that ran 2 stop signs. I won't call him out, but, you know, he kind of didn't bother to stop at the first one and only slowed down at the second one. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? And then we'll move on to a report. I'll start off with the mayor's report. And as Gina mentioned, Saturday was Make a Difference Day here in Pacific, and I have to say it was a huge success. And kudos to Gene Fancher and Kate Hull, a great job organizing that. There were several members of the park board as well as staff. Paula Weech, John Blackwell, Dwayne Grott, and Kerry Garberdine were here. The city attorney and his wife came down and helped Councilmember Katie Garberdine, And council candidates Stacy Knudsen and also Arlene Hatton and Shirley Thompson, they were the cooks over at the senior center, feeding everybody lunch. They did an awesome job. There were about 8 to 10 different Lions clubs that were represented. There was, I think, a total of 36 volunteers that day. And I have to tell you, if anybody's gone by the bioswale over there in front of Terry home, it's been an eyesore. I mean, once upon a time, it was this beautiful rain garden that was installed, and probably the last year, it kind of got worse and worse and worse and harder to maintain. And when I was told that they would have this many volunteers to come in and work on the bogey garden, I'm like, yeah, they'll be there until 3 and it still won't be done. We showed up over there, we met at the senior center, showed up there about 9:30, there was probably about 20, 25 people. They looked at it, I heard some moaning and groaning, and like, what are we supposed to do with this? And I said, underneath all of this are really nice plants, you know, we'll trim some of these bushes and trees. And they all climbed in, and it was like Tasmanian devils or something, it was like, 2 hours, it was done. It was cleaned up, done, it looked very beautiful, and I'm going to tell you, I can't say enough as far as myself, and as a board member from Terry Home, we had our president was there, and she came by, and also State Representative Roger Freeman came by and helped us out for a little bit, and everybody was totally amazed at the progress that had been made. And I want to give a special shout out again to Jean, Kate, Paul, and Carrie for working on into the afternoon. Everybody had lunch and kind of dissipated, but they continued on and worked. Well, I think Carrie was there until 5 o'clock mowing lawns, keeping the commitment of the people that had signed up for the personal care. And I want to give a special round of applause for all of those that showed up and participated. These are the kind of things that make me just love this community more and more when I see it showing up like this and doing these kinds of things. So thank you guys, that was great. Felt really good to be a part of this community Saturday. We even had Sean show up and take a few photographs. So, next, I want to let everybody know, I'm sure if you were around this weekend, you probably saw King County trucks, big dump trucks rolling down the street. They've been working on the park, working on the HESCOs over along White River Estates. They've been building up that elevation, as well as they're going to do the reinforcement with the double wall and stacking the HESCOs around Pacific Park. Tomorrow, there will be a media event down at the Pacific Park at 1 o'clock. Executive Dal Constantine, Councilmember Reagan Dunn, and Councilmember Peter von Reichbauer will be down there for a little media press release on all of us working together with King County, Pierce County, and the Army Corps of Engineers and the City of Pacific working together to protect the citizens in Pacific and to emphasize that this is just a safe, we're doing everything we can to mitigate the damage to the city and flooding is inevitable, and we're just doing everything that we can to keep that moving forward and try to minimize, I think, any damage in the event of a flood. I do want to remind everybody that there is a public meeting at 6:30 Wednesday night over at the gym. We'll be discussing this more in detail. We'll have representatives from King County, Pierce County, I believe it's coming.
Pierce County, the Corps of Engineers.
So we'll have a nice presentation. And so if anybody's been seeing everything going on and wants to know what's going on, that'll be discussed in detail Wednesday night at 6:30 over at the gym. So, I want to remind everybody as well that the flagpole dedication will be on November 11th, 11 a.m. right out here. We'd love to see everybody show up and attend that. And I want to thank Boy Scout Troop 540 and Katie Garberdine for putting this all together. And with that, that ends my report. We'll move on to the finance report.
Good evening. We have a couple projects going on right now. The next iteration of the budget is coming out this Friday with the mayor's message and updated numbers. The annual report, we're still all working on that, it's ongoing. Hope to have that done by the end of next week. And finally, we're finally going to be fully staffed in finance after about a year and a half, maybe longer. We hired a new employee named Heather, and she's the assistant utility clerk, and she starts on November 4th.
And court statistics
Community
are in the beginning of the building.
Are you covering it down here?
Public Safety.
I just wanted to update the council. I spoke with the mayor. We hired a person to come in and work with our Lexipol policy manual and also accreditation. And he's been working a lot. And what he does is he gives me, he takes our manual, as it was 2 years ago. We didn't keep up with the manual in the last year and a half, as far as updates, legal updates. And he's gone back. He's looked at the current Lexipol standards and policies, and so he goes through them, gives them to me. I have to review every policy and then give them back to him, and they're entered into the Lexipol system. So it's like 385 pages. So I think I'm through 80 pages so far, but we are progressing, and we're working toward a target date in the fall for a Lee map. Have a WASPIC on. It's our on-site to be accredited would be probably sometime toward the end of the year. Anyway, it's progressing.
So next up is a community service, or a public works. I'm sorry, Jim. Thank you.
To follow up on what the mayor said about what's happening down at the park and other parts of town, I met with King County, 3 members of King County staff today. We walked through Third Place Southeast and spoke with several of the property owners in there, talking about the plans for what we propose to do in there to try and protect them. As many of you may know, county has remodeled the river to find out what they expect may happen this year. They ran a couple different scenarios of flow rates, and they had surveyed the whole HESCO barrier, the sandbag berm down at the south end of White River Estate, and they've come to the determination that it doesn't take much water for us to overtop in a few different locations. So they're raising the berm, or the barrier, the HESCO barrier in the park. Got to have the right terminology. They've already raised and adjusted the HESCOs within White River Estates. Pierce County will be in later this week to raise the sandbag berm on their property just south of White River Estates. The plan is to extend the HESCO barrier up Third Place on the river edge as much as we can, and so the county is getting, when that area was originally platted, there was a 20-foot wide easement that allowed for the flood district to come in and do whatever work they wanted. However, the county would feel more comfortable having the property owner sign off with a new easement, a construction easement, so they have ingress, egress rights. County has also purchased some property, so we're working to try and extend that HESCO barrier all the way to the railroad tracks. There's a couple of property owners that are very reluctant, so we're looking at alternative methods to raise the edge of the river a little bit in there and work around it. But we're trying to get as much of this in place by the middle of November so that it's done. And if the HESCO barriers go in up there, they'll probably be up there 4 to 5 years is the current estimate of time. And there's a few other things that I have to address, but I will address those in parts of you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sykes.
Obviously, we would probably not have a meeting until next week. What to do, but we're having to like it over there.
Right, and I believe you had your meeting the first Wednesday of the month, right?
First Wednesday,
Yeah.
So I'm reminded there will be one next week.
Great, okay, great, thank you. Okay, next we have community services.
I want to let everybody know that we're serving stone soup. We had 35 people today. We'd like to see are we at spaghetti? We did get a donation from the police department, thank you, Chief Culkin. So we would be able to go, I'm thinking, into January for our stone soup. We're having a party, a Halloween party for the kids and the seniors. The kids are gonna come over about 10:30, 11 and trick or treat at the senior center, and we're gonna have goodie bags and such for the seniors at lunch, so. We did order a van driver activities coordinator, Georgia. She's pretty bubbly, pretty amazing, I'm thinking. We're gonna be taking more trips shopping. We're going to be doing more activities, crafts, hopefully do more bus events, maybe get these people out into the community more. We have the flagpole dedication for the seniors. I guess we're gonna be open, the senior center's gonna be open, we're gonna have coffee and such at the flagpole dedication.
Correct, it'll be open, but staff doesn't have to be there, it is a holiday.
Okay. There's a holiday bazaar on November 9th. It's over at the gymnasium. We still have tables available. Joanne said today we're gonna have soup and sandwich for lunch. We're gonna have vegetable soup, no meat, no noodles, no rice. So everybody can eat it. We're gonna have baked goods. There's still tables available. And then the tree lighting is, of course, the Friday after Thanksgiving, the seniors is gonna open up. We're gonna sell baked goods, and Katie and I are gonna get together. If anybody else wants to join, and we're gonna bake cookies the Saturday before. Yeah, it'll be a great time. That's all I have.
That's right.
Bring in ukulele. We encourage everyone to come help, because I can't cook.
It's not cooking, it's baking.
Yeah. It's a cook involved.
Excellent. All right, so reports from council. Any committee reports from council members? None? All right. So moving on, we have a public hearing. I'd like to open up this public hearing at this time for the 2014 revenue sources and ad valorem. What?
Boards and committees?
Boards and committees?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to move on. You know what, you guys, bad me. I want to go to the Seahawks.
I'm recording that, so should we wait?
Anyway, so I'm really sorry, and I even asked Jean if she would speak on behalf of the park board regarding Make a Difference. So sorry.
Okay. Oops. Oh. Trying to get this right. Jean Fancher, again, 37248 55th Avenue South. Speaking in lieu of 44 Kate Hall, I texted her and she's late getting away from work. She texted back, could I make this presentation for her, short, sweet, Seahawks, 3 zips, a few minutes before half.
Someone recorded it.
7-3.
Spoiler alert.
21-4, we won.
4.
That's in half hour.
I don't watch football.
Okay.
I think.
Now that Pacific has resumed its happy nature and we can have some decorum here, on Make a Difference Day, we put out an email asking for help for the Cherry Home Storm Garden. This program or project was initiated by the Pacific Park Board. They wanted to give back to the community, kind of in thank you for all of the help the community has made to the city parks for planting events, for cleaning up the city on Earth Day. We probably collected 7 or 8 tons over the last 4 years of trash and garbage just from the streets and the city parks and public right-of-ways. So we put out a call. My Zone 3 Lions Club chair, Terry Solis, said, you know, we could probably have 25 lions here. Just put out that word, ask for help. We talked to people from Pacific Partnerships, the Park Board, and the turnout was amazing. I can just name some of our Lions clubs that came. 22 members came from Bonnie Lake, Covington, Enumclaw, Fife, Federal Way, Mineral Lake, Puyallup, South Hill, Sumner, Pacific Algona. If I missed any, I'm sorry. And you know, there's a real new Lions Club couple in the Fife Lions Club, and they happen to work for the City of Pacific. Mr. Ken Luce was there. He wanted to know what I had done to bribe his wife to get him to come. Well, nothing, actually. He just came out of the goodness of his heart. It was a great event. We also put out the word to the cities of Pacific and Algona that we wanted to help residents, not just the Terry home, and we didn't make it a big splash. We didn't want to promise more than we could deliver, but we got calls from at least 6 other places or groups. The house next to the Cherry home is a rental. The lady who lives there works for the Cherry home and hasn't had time to do the yard work, doesn't have as many resources as she would like. So when the Lions and the other volunteers finished up on the Cherry home boggy garden or rain garden, they went next door. Not only did they cut the grass, they edged the sidewalks and trimmed the shrubs and raked it all up, and I think there were 4 loads of clippings and stuff taken down to the composting recycle up the road in Algona, Auburn, up West Valley Highway. Kate Hull went down 3rd Avenue and raked and swept leaves up off of the sidewalk. There's a whole row of really bright red trees there, and she cleaned up most of those leaves. They're still coming down, but it's a lot safer and less leaves going into the storm drains. Then we had lunch, and after lunch went to 3 or 4 different houses. I'm going to try and go faster. Paula and Frank Hatton went across the street to the post office and clipped the blackberries and picked up the trash and cleaned that up, so it's looking better. I know Glenda's had challenges, and her grandson is taking over the post office, so we think that helps them out. Kate and I went up to 2 houses in Algona and cut the grass in the front and backyards of a couple of houses. One house in particular where a lady in her 90s lived with her son or a child and a grandchild and just didn't have the resources to get that backyard cut. And you know, that canary reed grass gets sort of high and thick around the edges and especially in the barked areas. So we were able to get that grass cut. And then Carrie Geverdine went to 2 houses here in town, and one is in White River Estates where a woman had broken her foot or had surgery and she wasn't able to do any yard work. So Carrie was over there cutting grass, and I teamed up with him a little later, and that's where he was working until 5 o'clock at night, and he still had 30 or 40 feet of sidewalk that he wanted to edge before his battery died, and he came back and did that yesterday. So we figure we put in about 120 hours of volunteer time, and at $18 an hour works out to about $2,100, if I'm reading this right, yeah, of volunteer work. But the unintended consequences are probably more important than what you can see right there. What it did was took some burden off of people who were worried about how their houses looked or how they were going to keep up their yards and not get a fine from, like, the code enforcement officer in Algona. I guess their police officers come around and do the code enforcement. How to maintain the value of their homes in their neighborhood just by cutting the grass. It can make a lot of difference on how you feel about yourself and your yards. And for the Cherry home, cleaning that rain garden and getting it ready to be rebarked means that's money that was raised at the car show that does not have to go into maintenance. It can go into the unfunded needs, the unfunded jobs, or, you know, the costs that are associated with maintaining a residential home, because the medical payments that some of the traumatic brain injured folks there get does not cover the expenses. The Terry home has to raise money in addition to the payments they get for the 8 to 10 residents that are living there. So that's the unintended consequence, but I think that's the most important consequence. And although I've been mentioning the Lions quite a bit, and our motto is "We Serve," it is our responsibility as fellow citizens to help our neighbors, to support our communities. And I think the whole point of Make a Difference Day it's a national event, the fourth Saturday in October, is to express that and to teach not only our children that value, but to remind our peers and our fellow citizens of that value, of what it means to serve your community and to care about each other. So that concludes my report. Thank you very much to everybody who came. I see a lot of you in the room here, and I know those of you who didn't come, we'll make it next time, right?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Jane, great work.
You're welcome.
Okay. So any other boards and committees? Public Works, Civil Service, Planning Commission, the South County State Board, was not there, it was here. Pierce County Regional Council, SU doesn't use the next month, Regional Fire Authority.